Hi, I'm Hann from Archery Supplies. I'm here today to do a review on the PSE Decree, which is new for 2015. The Decree, PSE every year, they have 6 engineers and every year their bows get a little bit better, and the changes they make to their bows, you may not notice it, but they're minor, and it's not taking anything away, but they get improved every year. When I first saw the Decree, I thought, this looks like the bow they had last year. I didn't really think a lot about it, which is why this review is actually after the bow's been released. My sales rep at PSE said this is the biggest selling bow PSE is going to have. They said it's huge. It's going to be bigger than the DNA SP, and the DNA SP is a very smooth shooting bow and really good seller last year. He said you need to take a look at this bow, and this is the first time I haven't even shot the bow. This is the first time I've looked at it, and I'm going to take you through some of the changes they've done to this bow, and why you want to buy this bow, and some of the competitor bows which I have behind me. So quick few things about the Decree. 355 feet per second, which puts it at one of the fastest bows in production. The fastest is the PSE full throttle at 370. So this bow's a little bit down on the full throttle, but not much down. It has adjustable draw length, so you just basically move the modules and the draw stops to change the draw length. So it's not as fast as a full throttle, but it is adjustable. So some of the things that make PSE faster than other bows, the compression limbs, so this is a straight limb and it's bent back, so it puts more tension on the strings and cables. If you compare a bow like the Hoyt, this is the Spider, you'll see the compression on these limbs, they're almost dead straight. So there's not a lot of tension on the strings and cables. So what PSE, by putting so much tension on the strings and cables, what they're doing is reducing the vibration, increasing speed, reducing noise. So basically, if you see a limb with this much compression on it, you're talking a faster bow. Now, bows are pretty simple. To increase speed, you need to increase tension on your strings and cables and to reduce the weight of this cam. Now you'll see here, this section of the cam here has virtually no weight. It's all been machined out. So that increases the speed. Now if you see a bow with more, you'll see the Hoyt has got more material in that area. Not much, but there is more material. What it means is the cam has got more weight, so basically you lose efficiency of the bow. Now the downside of this is, if you were to draw this bow back with your fingers, and you should never draw this bow back with your fingers, always use a release aid, and you twist your hand to the side, and there's plenty of videos on YouTube showing people derailing bows, this cam will shred. The string will pull off this cam and this cam will shred. You'll need to buy new cams and new strings. So if you use a release aid and always use an arrow when you draw back the bow, you'll probably never have a problem with these sets of cams. I only recommend these bows for advanced shooters. So if you're a beginner, I don't recommend these bows, but if you're a experienced archer, use a release aid whenever you draw it back. You'll never have a problem with this bow, guaranteed. They have a lifetime warranty, so PSE always looks after you anyway. But honestly, I sell, I think, about 1,200 PSE compounds a year. I would say 90% of my problems are people drawing back with their fingers, torquing the cam, pulling the strings off the cams, ripping the cams, and also if you grip the bow like so, you're likely to pull the string off the cams. So if your hand's nice and open, you won't have that problem. Now the big change for 2015 on the Decree is the riser. This is a forged, machined 7000 series alloy. So when they make aluminium, they come in all different grades. Now forging is the strongest. So forging, they basically put it in some sort of press and pressurize it. It makes it the strongest of all the risers. So the Decree is a forged 7000 series riser, which is the strongest riser made. G5 had a 7000 series riser and still produces 7000 series risers, and you'll see them actually lift cars with this riser. And the first thing you notice when you pull this bow out of the case is it's light, 3.7 pounds. I own lots of PSEs. I own a PSE DNA, I own a PSE Evolution, I own a PSE Dominator, I own quite a few PSEs. One thing I noticed with the grip, which is standard on most of your PSEs, or all your PSEs these days, this grip is thinner than most of the others. It also feels a lot smoother, and this is the black finish, but it's like silky smooth. The grip to me is more comfortable than the other PSEs I own, and there's nothing wrong with the other PSEs I own. This just feels great. So some of the things about this bow that I've changed, like the DNA SP, they've now got a limb stop on the cam. So this stop here, and I'll just bring it up. The stop there, which you see there, that spins around and hits the limb here to create a solid strop. They also have cable stops, which is there, and down the bottom you have another cable stop on the end there. So this bow's got 3 stops, which makes a rock solid wall. So as you draw this bow back, you're not getting any of the cable flexing that you get with other bows, which have just got cable stops. Now PSE put a lot more tension on their strings and cables, so even if it did have just cable stops, it's a pretty solid wall. It's got a flex slide here, so as you draw it back, this slide, which acts like a limb, flexes in to reduce torquing on the cams. Now with PSE, each limb is a different poundage to reduce the cam tilting. With this riser, with the previous risers PSE have done, they've done more machining on one side, less on the other. This is a new style of machining they've used here, and basically what it looks like a cross like that down the riser. It looks pretty cool. Like, I like it a lot. The reports I've read on this bow, people say it's very, very smooth to shoot, and we're going to shoot it. I haven't actually shot it yet. The reports, and generally when you see reports, people go, oh, this bow's ultra smooth. At 355 feet per second, I don't expect it to be very smooth. I expect it to be solid. I expect the valley to be very narrow, so very small valley, because that's how you get your speed. This bow, like in Australia, ballpark, is about $100 more than DNA SP. So you're picking up about 10 feet per second on the DNA SP. The cams are very similar to the DNA SP. The SP will be smoother than this bow to draw. This bow is a fraction lighter than the DNA SP because it's got the forged riser, 7000 series riser. I like the look of the bow, the balance in the hand. Now if I just hold the bow there, you'll see it rolls forward. Now the reason I suspect it does that is because when I actually grip this bow and put tension on, my pressure point will be here. And what I suspect will happen when I shoot this bow, the bow will just sit there. That's what I suspect will happen, and we'll see. Because when I just hold it in my hand, my actual pressure point's up higher, so the bow will tend to roll forward. But if I was to put pressure on it, the bow would actually stay in my hand, and I'm trying to simulate the pressure I put on, would actually sit straight up and right. So I don't expect to feel much vibration when I shoot this bow. I don't expect to feel much rolling, much movement when I shoot this bow. So if you shoot a stabilizer with this bow, and stabilizers reduce your moving all over the place because they're long and they absorb shock and balance, and you'll probably need a side rod back here to counteract it. So you'll need the front one and the back one to counteract each other to keep the bow well balanced. I just want to go through some of the competitors of this bow, because the biggest thing is when you're going to buy a bow and you're going to spend $1,100 on a bow, first thing is, what else are the competitors for this bow in the market? And one competitor is obviously in the PSE lineup is the DNA SP, which is nice. The reason you buy this bow is it's smooth, it's faster than DNA SP. The other one's the full throttle, which is a little bit more expensive, not adjustable in draw length, a little bit heavier in the hand. But we'll look at some of the other competitors, and I've got 3 behind me. to look at. And hopefully I've done reports on each of these. This is the Matthews Chill R. It's a little bit longer. This is 33 inches axle. It's a very smooth bow to draw. This bow's got module adjustments, so you've got to buy a module when you need to adjust it. It's not a review on the Matthews. This bow sells ballpark for about $1,200–$1,300, so more expensive than the PSE Decree. It's a little bit heavier in the hand. I think this is about 3.94 pounds. The draw cycle on this bow, this is my bow, is very, very smooth. But it is more expensive, so you're going to be forking out an extra $100–$200 for this, and you'll need modules for it. But it's a nice bow to shoot, and I'm not knocking it or not saying to buy the PSE. Not as fast as the PSE. Your speed on this I think is 340 feet per second, PSE is 355. So this is really more a comparison between the DNA SP, which is a smooth draw for me. The Decree 355, you really go compare it with bows which are 355, and there's not many. We'll just run through some of the others. This is the Martin Thrasher. Retail on this is about $1,000. It's got a hybrid cam system like the Decree. It's not as light as the Decree. It's about 3.9 physical pounds to hold up. It's well balanced. Rotating modules like the Decree. It's not as fast. It's 345 feet per second, so the Decree is beating it by 10 feet per second. Nice little bow, very smooth to draw, twin draw stops here and here. And this is the Hoyt Spider. 300, so this bow retails for about $1,000, so it's smidged down from the Decree. They do have a carbon spider, which is the same bow with a carbon riser. Same cam system, that sells for about $1,500–$1,600. I just picked this one for no particular reason, because it was the closest price point to the Decree. This is 330 feet per second, so you're giving up about 25 feet per second. 25 feet per second is equivalent to about 10 to 15 pounds of weight, so the PSE Decree at 50 pounds will be faster than the Hoyt Spider at 65 pounds. You'll notice the tension on the limbs is not as great, they don't put as much tension, and they only have cable stops. There's no limb stops, and this bow's module adjustment, so basically to adjust your draw length you need to buy new modules. Modules cost about $50–$60 I think. So that's, to me, that's probably the competition for the Decree. To me, the Decree's aimed at a person who's looking for a fast, high-performance bow. I want the latest, greatest. That's what the Decree is, and we'll go and have a shot and see how it stacks up. Okay, we're going to have a shot. I've set up a basic D-loop on the Decree, a basic Whisker Biscuit RRS. This is the first time I've drawn this bow. This bow's set on 60 pounds. Now, I shoot 60 pounds. And I find all 60 pounds are not the same. So some bows, 60 pounds is easy, and other bows, 60 pounds is not so easy. I expect this one to be quite tough. But I've sold, of the Decrees, I've sold about 4 of them so far. People who've owned them love them. They say it's a very smooth draw. That's not what I'm expecting. But let's go and have a look what it's like. So the first shot I'm not actually going to make. I'm just going to check the draw cycle out, see what it feels like. Okay, so in the draw cycle, what this feels like is the very first inch you draw this bow back, the poundage feels like 60 pounds for the very first inch you draw it back. And it feels like 60 pounds the whole way back until you get the valley. Now the valley is actually quite long compared to like full throttle, and it's longer than my DNA CC, which is basically the cam this copies. Once you get it back there, it feels really comfortable to shoot. So I understand when people say this bow is really smooth to draw, because you don't feel it lumping, but it's a solid draw all the way through. A lot of bows basically gradually build up the poundage, and then they give you a big long valley at the end. Now it's a slower bow. This is not this. This is a 355 feet per second, one of the fastest bows made. So it's basically building up the poundage the very instant you draw this bow back. So you actually will not feel an increase in poundage as you draw this bow. So for me, shooting this bow at 60 pounds, I like a bow to be comfortable. It's comfortable, like I don't feel like I move around the place when I draw this bow. But for me, I'd probably wind it down a little bit just so I'm more comfortable drawing it. And it's got a fair bit of speed anyway, so let's just have a shot. So the grip is nice. The grip is much better. I prefer the grip better than the DNA I currently shoot. So to me, it's a really nice, comfortable grip. So that's the valley. Now the valley sort of starts here and then drops in. It's a very distinctive valley. Now we're going to take the shot. Now you see the position of the bow when I shoot, it basically didn't move. And the reason for that is they balance this bow right on your pressure point where you generally shoot. Like, when I want to buy a new bow, like I said, I owned an Evo when they first produced the Evolution, which was a standout bow. I then brought a DNA when they produced that, because that was a standout bow, one bow of the year. I didn't buy a DNA SP, and I was tempted to, because it was a DNA, but it was a slower version of DNA, but it's smoother to draw. So to me, it was a cross of my old Evolution, which was smoother draw, and the DNA, which was faster. So for me, I was like, well, I own an Evolution, I own a DNA. This, I would retire my Evolution and retire my DNA, because this is better. And how much better is it? It's a lot better. The draw suck was better than the DNA CC. Probably not as smooth as the DNA SP, but I'm picking up an extra 10 feet per second. So that's equivalent of 10 feet per second, 5-6 pounds. So I could shoot this bow on 54 pounds compared to the DNA SP, which would have to be 60 pounds, and I think I'd prefer to shoot this at 54. The thing which gets me, this bow is lighter, the grip feels better. It was a pretty impressive bow to shoot, and we'll just have a couple more shots. I really liked it. Like, I didn't think I would as much as I did, and we'll just have another one. That was my first shot I've ever taken, but you have another shot. So we're going to take a second shot with the with the Decree. It looks like a DNA. Now when you see reviews on people when they shoot the bow, you've often got to ask, are they getting paid? Are they a paid shooter? I watched a review last night on a paid shooter, and he gets paid $100,000 a year to shoot that product, and he's going, this is great. Now, what I say to all customers, check the stats on the bow, check what the bow feels like, check reviews on the product before you buy it, so you know what you're buying. This bow, 355 feet per second. If you want fast, and why wouldn't you want fast for hunting or 3D, or even target archery, why wouldn't you want faster? This is one of the fastest bows, so you have to compare it to one of the fastest bows made. It's not, I watched this review by a professional shooter last night, and the bow shoots at 330 feet per second IBO, so it's 25 feet per second slower than this, and the guy was saying how fast it is. Well, the PSE Supra shoots faster. So the PSE target bow, 38 inches axle to axle, they use for target archery is faster than his $1,500 bow. Now he doesn't say that in the review, obviously, because he's not comparing them. Now I don't care what bow you buy, just make an executive decision and basically look at the statistics of the bow and the way it shoots. But have a shot if you can of PSE Decree. It's pretty awesome. So it's very solid. Value was alright. To me it talks less than the DNA. I like it. I'll buy one because I like it. It's fast. I tend to like fast bows. So PSE Decree, check it out. Latest and greatest from PSE. I tend to believe what my sales rep tells me. He's very honest. I've dealt with him for 10 years. And he's always been honest with me, and I appreciate that. And PSE tends to be honest. They always have been, and I appreciate that again in business. PSE is honestly one of the greatest companies, not even archery related. They ship products, the way they make products, the way they back up the product, like the amount of people who wreck their product, through dry firing, derailing, and PSE fix it. Like, for me, I am very lucky to be a PSE dealer. Like, I distribute lots of bow companies, Matthews, Martin, Bear, Darton, Hoyt. So I distribute most bow companies, but PSE it's about customer service. Now, sometimes you might have to wait when you've wrecked your cam through dry firing. I've had customers who dry fired bows 3 or 4 times. You might have to wait for them to make the cam sometimes, but they tell you how long you're going to have to wait if you ask, and they're pretty good with that time period. So for me, this is a company I love. I love the people who work there. And if you ever go to the factory, the people who work there are honest people. A lot of people have been working there for 20 plus years. It's a great company, PSE, great company, and this is a great product, PSE Decree. So if you can, go to any local archery shop and have a shot with it if you're in the market for an $1,100 fast bow. It's not as smooth as some, but it's faster than others. So fast, PSE Decree, check it out. Thanks, bye.